Hey, Jantans and Jantanites, it's Jason Desmond from the Jantan Collective with yet another interesting discussion on What's Up With That. This is where we question, we learn, and we grow. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Comment because we love hearing from you. Maybe it's something that we talked about before and you're going, you know what? I want to have my input on this. Or maybe we haven't talked about a subject matter and you think we should. Well, once again, get in touch with us. Now, when I first saw the numbers for this, I was shocked to the bone. Apparently, okay, this is only Malaysia. Suicide is on the rise. There were 4 suicides a day in the first 3 months of 2021. Yes, I know that this pandemic is getting to everyone, but seriously, those numbers are shocking. What goes through the mind of someone contemplating suicide? What can we do to help? Right? Seriously, what's up with that? So let's get straight into it. We have Ezra Mitchell, a transformational coach, certified master NLP, and timeline therapy practitioner, and certified master hypnotherapist, and has an amazing ability to make men cry. Yeah, don't you did that, Ezra? I mean, like when we were at one of your men's circles, it's very intense sessions, very, very, very
powerful. Yeah,
right.
In a good way, right?
In a good way, yeah, exactly. Also, we have Afzan Yas Muhammad Ramli, architect by day, mental health advocate by day as well. Actually, this is what you do. This is what you live for as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this is going to be very interesting. And I think, you know what, since it is the first time you and Ezra are meeting, I think this is going to be a great opportunity for you guys to actually work on other things in the future. But Afzan, I just want to get your thoughts on this because we were talking about now being a mental health advocate. It's also your day thing. But you're also an architect. How did you become a mental health advocate?
I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder in 2019. But I discovered that I've been living with the symptoms almost all my life. And that shocked me because I never knew that I was sick, that I had a mental illness. And that was why I started my advocacy, because I want people to get help as soon as they can, because I got help later when I hit rock bottom, and I don't want that for others.
But what happened in 2019?
Something, and a big event happened in my life. It was a traumatic event, and it caused me to have suicidal thoughts. Right. And that was when I decided to seek help. And I went to a psychiatrist, and that after a few visits, then I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. And so that was when I started my advocacy. I want people to get help as soon as they possibly can, because some mental health issues can be avoided if only you seek help as soon as possible.
A lot of people always think that whenever anybody thinks about committing suicide, it actually happens because like the stock market crashed or something, and then you want to do that, or a very bad breakup. But suicidal thoughts just come in regardless. Like for you, Afzan, at what point did you go from, okay, this is a bad moment, and then now I have suicidal thoughts? Could you identify that?
Okay, after the traumatic event, I slipped into a depressive episode. I did not want to meet anyone. I didn't even want to get out of bed.
But you were working still?
Yes. So I missed work for days. And sometimes even when I went to work, my body would be there, but my heart and mind would not be there. If that makes sense. Like I was like a zombie. I was just going through the motions and not really talking to anyone. I went to work, I went back home and just slept. And every time I wake up in the morning, I felt like, I wish I didn't have to wake up. I wish I could just sleep all throughout my life. And the suicidal thoughts didn't just come like at one go. It was like a series of, at first I thought of death, not my own death, but death in general. And then I started thinking, my life no longer has any meaning, no purpose. Life is meaningless. I was feeling worthless. And that was when I started thinking maybe it was better for me to die. I mean, it was the only way I thought could end the pain and the suffering. Right. I didn't really want to die per se, but I just wanted my pain to end.
And it's a good thing that you brought that up also, because I think we're going to be talking a little bit about global circumstances right now. But Ezra, we've spoken about this before previously about how you got into the work that you're doing, but also because and I think we were talking about imposter syndrome at one point because we both had that, like we were very successful at what we were doing. You were DJing in Bali, if I'm not mistaken, and whatnot. And you had suicidal thoughts of your own, or did you attempt it, or you just had thoughts of it?
Yeah, I was diagnosed. I was having issues when I was a teenager, and in the early 90s, at 14, I was diagnosed with depression. The doctor said I had a chemical imbalance and put me on meds, which helped, for a little while. I would get on meds and then they would stop working. I'd get off meds and then I would try a different one. Over the course of 10 years, I was on 6 different medications and they would work and then they would stop working until I decided that I wanted to handle it naturally. I didn't want the side effects are not almost as bad, but they're bad too. So during this depression, the depression that I would have come and go, it would often lead to suicide ideation as well. So for 24 years, I dealt with depression and suicidal tendencies. And it would come and go. There are events that can trigger it, but also sometimes you just wake up and just like Aslan said, you wake up and you just don't feel like getting out of bed. The joy that you have for, your interests and your friends and doing things, it's just, you can't connect to that feeling anymore. And so nothing feels worth it to like do anything. And there's this hopelessness and despair and this pain, just like you said, that you just want to get away from this pain. It's so intense. And it kind of came to a head in Bali. I was suffering. I was having another episode and it was about 3 weeks straight. Usually it's just a few days, maybe a week at the most. And you kind of come out of the cloud, you get out, the clouds break and you come through it. But this was so intense, the most intense it had ever been. And on my 37th birthday, I decided that I was going to actually follow through. I had thought about it before, but I had made the choice on my 37th birthday and I started Googling how to do it. And I set up a plan to do it for 3 weeks later. The universe did not have that. God did not have that in store for me. I was sent an angel who pulled me out of my hole long enough for me to realize that I do need to get help. And that's part of my problem, Afzan, is that I was reluctant to get help. I had this ego. I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to prove that I could do it myself. And that really kept me from getting the help that I need in my adult life after I left my mom's care as a teenager. And this experience, this angel that was sent to me and kind of pulled me out of my hole, I realized like, if I don't get help, if I don't like let go of my ego, I'm actually going to like die, and this is what shifted. And then I got help. I saw therapists and coaches and different energy work and all sorts of different things to get that help that I need to ultimately overcome that.
But Afzan, did you have an angel in your life come in, or did you in your own mind go, whoa, what are these thoughts? I need to go get help. Was that yours?
I have so many angels in my life. They are my lifeline. They're my support system. But yeah, the thought of dying scared me so much. So, and that was when I thought, okay, this is scary. This is not me, and I need to get help. But at the same time, like Ezra said, I was, even as a woman, I have my own ego as well. And I thought I could do this on my own. But then I talked to a few friends and they advised me, maybe you cannot do this alone. And they themselves said they don't have the expertise to help me. So I needed to talk to an expert. And my friend helped and went to my first visit with the psychiatrist.
Right. Because I'm just trying to understand, in your case, Ezra, did this angel come around because he or she saw like, okay, he's in that mental state where I think I need to step in and I need to do something about it because he might take that next step? Because how do you identify if someone is considering it? For someone who's actually, for both of you, you've actually considered it. That was actually in your plans, right? Now, having gone through it, can you see it in other people that they might be like, some people just say, this world is shit. Okay, I just want to end it. Some people say it, but there are some people who consider it. Can you tell that someone might be actually considering it?
Yeah, I mean, there's, there are cues. They're not often easy to tell. If you don't really study psychology and really look at people and look at their behaviors, it's a lot of stuff you'll miss. But, changes in people's personality, someone giving away their most prized possessions, or, someone getting into drugs or alcohol, or, there's some things that could be indicators of probably depression or mental health issues first, not necessarily suicide. My angel was a stranger that I met on the dance floor the night before I was going to end my life. Yeah. And there was just something about her that I felt like she understood me. I didn't even know it at the time, but I had this feeling, and I'm sure you can vouch for this, Afzan. It's when you deal with depression, you realize how many other people that have never dealt with it have no idea about like how to comprehend what you're going through. It's really difficult if you've never dealt with depression for you to understand it. A lot of people are like, well, just be happy, just go work out, just do something. And it's not just like, oh, I'm sad and I just need to, just change my state. It's something a lot deeper and almost indescribable to someone that's never experienced it. So I spent my entire life not telling people I was depressed because I didn't want to be that depressed kid. So the only person that knew was my mom and my best friend, but none of my other friends knew I had depression because I felt like they couldn't understand me. And that kept me even farther away from trying to connect and get help.
Right. So for you, Afzan, okay, number one, congratulations on being certified very recently. You're a mental health first aider.
Yes.
I didn't even know you could get that. How do you become a mental health first aider?
You have to go through a course, and then you have to take an assessment, and then you'll be certified if you pass. But
so
the
basically,
passing
when
mark
someone is feeling
80%.
So can you tell, like, someone, like, how, if someone has a heart attack, if you're a first aider, you administer CPR and everything, can you tell if someone is seriously considering attempting suicide?
There's a reason mental illness is called the invisible illness, because many people hide it very well. I hid it very well from people. I went to work and nobody realized that I was in a state of depression. And but there are telltales, like there are signs like consistent talks of dying or of death, self-harming. It may not be suicidal self-harming, but like just cutting on the flesh. And then there's the sudden change of mood. Like, let's say your friend has been depressed for weeks, and then all of a sudden that person becomes all cheerful and all like he's looking forward to something. And that can be a sign too. But yeah, it's tricky because there's a lot of gray areas that we need to explore. And there is never just one sign. There's like a whole bunch of it, that there are cues that we have that sometimes it's difficult for us to notice if we're not really paying attention.
Now, for those of you who are actually just watching this right now, I just want to state that Ezra and Afzan were speaking to them because they've actually gone through it themselves. It's something that I think a lot of people are going through, and I wouldn't, because there are a lot of people who are suicide experts, I would say, but you guys have actually had personal experiences with it. I'm just wondering, what increases the risk of suicide? Because I think, Ezra, you talked about alcohol and drugs and everything. So I mean, because you're a first aider now, do you know what goes through someone's mind? And then after that, when they're maybe on drugs or alcohol, it gets worse, and then they actually do it. What are the things that increases that risk?
Internalized feelings. Like normally the reason is never just one reason. There's always like a series of events that pushes them to the edge. So it's never just one reason. Like there's no such thing as somebody who died by suicide because he was fired from a job. It's normally because of a series of events that pushed him towards the edge. Losing a loved one to suicide also increases the risk. So if you lost someone you know died by suicide, it increases the risk of you also committing the same thing. And then severe mental health issues like depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, schizophrenia, especially when you get psychotic episodes, when you have hallucinations. Yeah.
But a global pandemic like this as well, I'm assuming, would push
Yes.
someone towards that way. Because I've heard people just talk like really dark stuff recently. It's like, and they're not even in bad situations. I mean, financially and whatever it is. But the things that they say right now, I'm like, wow, I've never heard you say things like that before. They're friends of mine, and it's just strange. People have never had any history of mental illness or issues, right? Suddenly have the things that they're saying freaks me out as well. But Ezra, how do we prevent this? I mean, like you had an angel pop out of nowhere, really, on the day before that you were thinking about it. How do we prevent this from even a bunch of people who are thinking of it?
I think probably the most effective way to avoid these issues and avoid someone going through with suicide is to have deeper and closer connections with people, right? But we're in this event right now where that's not possible, and we're actually forced to isolate. And so the very thing that we need that is keeping us healthier, we're not allowed to do, and for an extended period of time. I was looking at an article the other day about suicide numbers in Malaysia. So in 2019, there, according to the police, there was 609 suicides.
Yep.
In 2020, there was only 635 or something like that. So it only gone up a little bit. But in this year, the year, in the first 3 months, it's already 333. So you already have double the number. And I think, part of that is just because, in the beginning, it was like, oh, there's this thing going on. Let's band together. Okay, let's, unite. Let's protect our fellow citizens, protect our families. We'll stay indoors, we'll do what the government wants and all this. And we can do all that. But when it stretches for months to years it gets harder and harder. I know the first year of the lockdown was not so bad. I actually enjoyed a lot of it. I got to work remotely. I got to focus on my own things.
And it was different, right?
Yeah, it was different. It was almost kind of exciting. I wasn't personally affected by COVID, but I know it was very difficult for other people that were. But as it drags on, I've noticed it's gotten harder for me. And I mean, my work's going great. My business is going great. I'm in love. I've got a new relationship, but I feel just meh. And so there's something else that's going on that's robbing us of I think the normalcy and from all the research that I've done and all the work that I've done with people, and I love helping people with communication and relationships. That's what increases people's quality of life, and also their mental health, and also their ability to get help when they are struggling. It's those deep relationships, and we're in a situation where it's very difficult to do that. And even, we can substitute it with online stuff like this, but it's not the same as being able to hug someone and, to hold them and, to comfort them face to face, to cry with them, to laugh with them. And so this is really a difficult time we're all struggling with around the world.
But also, I think in a very strange way, and I don't know whether you guys will agree with me on this, before, whenever anyone talked about suicide or depression and everything, yes, but let's talk about something else, right? So it's kind of pushed aside. But now, because of COVID, because of what everyone's going through, because it just sucks. And the numbers, Ezra, you're right. I think it was there's 4 suicides every single day. This is just in Malaysia. Yeah. And that's just so staggering. Is it, I don't want to use the word good, because people are talking about it now, right? And it's a real thing. Does it help to break the stigma of suicide and mental health? And Afzan, you're doing your advocacy work, right? Does it help that people are talking about it a lot more?
It does. It brings focus to a subject matter that's real, that's been happening, that all this while we've been pushing it under the rug and didn't even realize it. So it brings a lot of attention to a real health issue, because mental health is health. So it's a health issue. So it's good that I mean, it's not good that suicide is happening, but it's good that people are talking more openly about it now instead
And because
of
people are talking about it, do you
hushing.
think it will help to prevent more people from actually going through that?
I would say yes, because the more knowledge people have, the more awareness people have about mental health, then they themselves can identify the signs when they themselves are going through a mental health issue. Just like when I did, I was lucky because I was surrounded by I had a friend who's a psychologist. So I was always exposed to all this knowledge, but many other people are not. And with this, then maybe it opens up a whole new conversation into more mental health issues instead of just suicide alone.
Yeah, because I find it to be very because on in my other job, one of the things I do, there's a whole mental health segment that we do, and we look at the latest studies and articles, and the moment you look up anything to do with mental health, boom, there's so much. There's like a lot more studies coming out. People are just talking about it a lot more in forums. So in that sense, I just think it's a lot better. But also, I hope that, because Ezra, I don't know whether you feel this, but in the past, did people just say, like, because for someone who actually has depression, right? And then you hear some person go, "Yeah, I'm going through depression," but they're just sad or something, like it's not depression, but it's just sad. Sometimes do you feel like they're using these words like depression and whatnot a bit too lightly?
Well, yeah, I think, as we talk about it more, I think people do use it more. In social media, it's talked about more, and so we can also use it in more of a jokingly manner, or more. We use the same words, but there's a whole spectrum, right? There's feeling off, for a day, because something happened. Oh, that losing my job is depressing me. But then there's clinical depression, and there's this huge spectrum, and we only have this one word for it. So, but I agree with Afzan that, the more we're talking about it, and the more we normalize it, and it helps and allows people that are actually going through it to talk about it. And there's something therapeutic about that. And even just talking about it can help us help us feel better, can pull us out of that for a moment in order to realize what's going on and to get help. And it's, it starts with communication. So it's great that there's all these studies and people are talking about it, even if they're not necessarily using it in the right context. We're normalizing it and reducing the stigma, right? I think in Malaysia, you get arrested if you commit suicide. And
the law is it, Afzan?
Yes. Attempted suicide is a crime here in Malaysia.
Right. But I think they're fighting to change it, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people, like I suppose you as an advocate, you're trying to fight to change it as well, right?
Yes.
Afzan?
Many NGOs are trying to get the government to change this act or the law. Yeah,
because I remember I can't remember who I spoke to about this, but someone to do with the law. It could have been a lawyer, could have been a cop, I can't remember. But they said the first thing that we want to do, why it's considered a crime, is that we want to be able to have cops mobilized so that they can stop it from happening first, so that they can save that person, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it's the after effect of that's very, very damaging as well, right? So I always wondered about that, like crime. It's very strange. But I need the two of you to, and feel free to jump in whenever you want, both because it's not like an interview. We're just having a chat about this, right? I just want to get your thoughts on this from two people who have actually gone through it yourselves. I don't think I've contemplated suicide, but I've thought of it. Is that the same thing? Just like, I wonder what it's like. I wonder what goes through someone's mind with thinking of suicide. Does that make me someone who's contemplating suicide?
Not necessarily, no. There's different levels of ideation. The majority of people who think about suicide don't even attempt it, and those that attempt it, most of them aren't able to actually finish it. But just because you're thinking about it. And from what I've read, it's quite common. I think 4% of Americans have contemplated suicide. We think about so many things day to day, and we're exposed to so many things that affect what we think. Just because we think about something doesn't mean we're broken or unfixable, or we're destined for this path, so if you're thinking about it often and repeatedly, and it's regularly, and it gets deeper, then you maybe need to ask yourself, well, am I having a problem, and sought out help with a professional to diagnose you, because a proper professional will be able to diagnose whether you're actually suffering from depression, also have suicidal tendencies or not,
Right. Because I've always wondered about, and I don't know whether it was the same for you, Elsa, because I think about, because Ezra, you talked about like you planned it out, like how you're gonna do it, right? So I've always had the thought, like, I wonder which is the easiest way to go, which is the least painful. And sometimes it's just like we're talking amongst friends, and then people just start saying stuff, and then everybody chimes in. No, I would do it this way, I would do it that way. But that's not exactly thinking about committing suicide, right? I mean, like, what goes through your mind really when you're thinking? It's not like I want to end it because the world is horrible, right? What actually happens in your head?
As I said before, all I felt was this hopelessness and worthlessness. I felt I was not good enough for the world, and I thought the world would be better without me. And one of the criteria of mental illness is prolonged symptoms, and it must affect your daily life. So if
prolonged is how long?
At least 2 weeks. So if you are thinking of death, let's say, but it doesn't affect how you do your job, it doesn't affect your appetite, it doesn't affect your relationships, then it's nothing to be worried about.
But you went to work though. I mean, right, Afzan?
Yes, I went to work, but my work performance was affected.
Right. Okay.
Yes, I was absent from the office a lot. I missed a lot of meetings with clients, and my work performance was poor at the time. Whereas under normal circumstances, I would have done a much better job. So and I also felt like I just wanted the pain to end.
Right.
Because the pain is invisible. And what really got me upset every single day at the time was because I felt this pain, but I cannot pinpoint where the pain is. And that is also one of the reasons that people commit this self-harming actions.
Right.
Because the pain is invisible. So they want, when the pain becomes physical, it becomes a wound, it becomes something tangible, something they can see. So it makes sense. Whereas if you cannot see it, it doesn't make sense. Like, where is the pain? You're feeling it, but you don't know where it is.
But isn't it more dangerous now, though? And what we're going through, it's been a year and a half of this pandemic, and the numbers are rising, and you know where the pain points are. This is causing people to feel really, really depressed, like legit depressed. People who have never had any feelings like that before. What do you say to someone who's contemplating suicide like that? Just snap out of it?
No, that is the last thing you should say to somebody who's contemplating suicide. Many people are under the impression that when you suspect somebody is thinking of committing suicide, then the last thing you want to do is to talk about suicide with them. But actually, it helps to ask them directly, are you thinking of death? Are you seriously contemplating suicide? Because then it makes the problem real. It forces them to face their inner demons, their thoughts. And yes, most of the time they probably don't want to talk about it. But what is important is that we listen to what they have to say. Because they may not talk about suicide directly, but they might open up about their problems, the things that's been bothering them, the things that's been pushing them to the brink of suicide. So listening is key. We need to listen more, and it's not so much about saying the right thing to people. It's about listening.
I always worry about saying the wrong thing, and I'm famous for saying the wrong things at the wrong time, right? Ezra, anything to add? What's the ideal thing to say when a friend comes up to you and says, I want to end it all?
Yeah, I agree with Afzan, to have a very candid and honest talk and ask them, are you seriously thinking of killing yourself? And see what they say, because you're not implanting that in there. If they're thinking about that, they're already thinking about it. You're not going to give them that thought, and now they're going to, take that now and run with it. But it's really that starts the dialogue, and as Afzan said, it makes it real. And when we think about these things, and sometimes we say them, we're just doing it unconsciously. But when someone that cares about us, asks us directly, and we have to engage in this conversation and then either make the case or share what you're going on, it makes it really real. And that is where that connection I was talking about happens, and where they can see that you're concerned about them, that you care, and wherever that conversation goes, as long as it goes without judgment and condemnation, I think it will be beneficial for that person that's struggling, because they will be able to get some stuff off their chest, and they will come away from that conversation a little bit lighter. And that little bit of lightness might be enough to pull them away from that possible suicidal act.
And I think a lot of mistakes that we do as people is that we listen to comment on the situation.
Or to fix, right?
We don't listen to understand. And that is what we need to do. We listen to understand, no judgment, set aside our own personal views. Even if we disagree with what they say, it's not our place to judge whatever they're thinking. So just listen to understand.
Do you, at that point, when you're, I don't know whether it's the first meeting that a friend or someone walks up to you and says, you're thinking about it, do you at that point say, I think you need to seek help? I think you need to talk to someone. Do you need treatment? Do you say that right off the bat?
We have to listen to them first, and then we can encourage them to seek help. But ultimately, they have to make the choice to go for help. We cannot force them to. So we encourage them. We open up avenues for them, just put some suggestions out where they can seek help, whether it's psychotherapy, whether it's just, art therapy, anything that can make them feel better. But like I said, ultimately, the choice is theirs. We cannot force them to go for help, but we can encourage them.
What are the treatments? I mean, did you guys have to go for sessions and talk to anyone about this treatments? What did you go through, Ezra?
I would ask the person, are you willing to seek help in this matter? Kind of ask them, give it to them, and ask them, and then they are agreeing to it or not agreeing to it. They're making that choice. But I've in the past, when I was younger, I went to psychiatrists and psychologists. As I grew older and I started, studying personal growth, I went to coaches and healers, and basically anything that I thought might help me with what I was struggling from. But if someone's really in a serious state, contemplating suicide, going through depression, I think they need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist ASAP, because that's they don't necessarily have the luxury just to kind of explore everything that's out there when they're in a really bad state, if they're willing to do that. So I would definitely recommend, and I've been on antidepressants. I've been on, many of them. And then there was a time in my place where I hated all those kind of prescription drugs. I think they're overprescribed. But I do now understand there's a time and a place for everything. And there's a time and a place where someone does need medication. Even if you're opposed to those kind of medications, that medication could be the thing that saves your life. And are you willing to do it for a month or two to get out of this place? And then, you don't have to stay on it for the rest of your life. I definitely don't recommend that. But if that one pill is the difference of you living, to the next day, the next week, the next year, and being there for your family and your friends, and having an amazing life, then I'd be willing to, to take that pill again, whatever is prescribed. So it's about being open. I was not open to a lot of things with my ego, and but that was what I was standing in my own way of my own healing, and that's why I also do the work that I do now in coaching and working with people on emotional and mental health. Is there people need this help, and if I can offer that, and if I can, they're open and willing, or take people that aren't open and willing, and give them that possibility of asking for help, then that's my purpose now.
So I was about to ask you which one worked best for you, right? Because it's like, I suppose medication works immediately to fix that problem. It's more like a band-aid to stop you from bleeding.
Yeah.
But for you, if you could just think back, what was it that helped you the most?
So when I was initially diagnosed when I was 14, they said I had a chemical imbalance, and I knew I would need to be on medication for the rest of my life. This was in like
they always say that, don't they?
Yeah, this is in 1991. So
Right.
it's really important to know, to understand, just because someone has a PhD doesn't mean they are the best doctor. Even for you, it's good to get a second opinion. It's good to find a trusted doctor that is, if you have friends or know other people that have been successfully treated with them. So I kind of accepted that I'm broken for the rest of my life, and this is what I'm going to have to deal with. What I found later on, as I started healing my story, is I had this deep story that I needed to heal about my father, and about how I viewed myself growing up without a father. And this took me on a journey to explore these other alternative modalities and holistic healing, and ultimately find the relief from my depression by healing that story of I am not good enough. I think you do need, like, if you're suffering severe depression and you're contemplating suicide, then you need to go, like, get the strongest medication, or the strong, whatever that is, as a professional help, licensed professional help. And then once you clear that, and you kind of get a hold on it, then you can explore these other things that are going to be more long term, not just the Band-Aid, right?
Yeah. Afzan, did you get medicated?
I'm still on medication.
Right. How's
Yeah,
it feel? Do you feel like you're overly dependent on it? Do you feel like you want to wean yourself off of it?
Yes, and actually, we are slowly weaning off the medication, because I started off with a strong dose, and now the dosage have been reduced. My doctor did say that I probably will have to take medication for the rest of my life because of my bipolar disorder.
Bipolar, what did they give you? Lithium?
No, epilim for the high episodes,
Right.
and antidepressants.
How to balance you out? Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because for bipolars, we experience these two extreme ends of emotions. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still on medication, but I'm hoping to slowly wean it off. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of people are resistant to see a doctor or a psychiatrist is because of medication. They fear that they will have to be on medication for the rest of their lives. But like Ezra said, not everybody has to be on medication for the rest of their lives. And mental illness recovery is more than just medication, more than just therapy. It covers a whole lot of aspects of your life.
Right. Hey, I want to ask you guys about something. Did you guys watch 13 Reasons Why?
Yeah.
No? Oh, you haven't?
No.
I've watched it, and I was, I don't know. I wasn't sure how I felt about that movie, to be honest. When you watched it, okay, when did you watch it?
Actually just last year, I think. Not when it came out, but
there's a lot of hype
long
about
after.
it. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of
controversy.
There's a lot of controversy about it. What did you think of it?
Well, suicide is a very polarizing issue, because there's no in between. People either agree with it or people don't agree with it. But in the case of this show, there are pros and cons. The pros is that it highlights an issue that's been happening, but many people just want to, like I said, just sweep it under the rug. And the show also delves deep into the reasons that would push someone to commit suicide. Because as the show says, 13 reasons why. And I mentioned before, it's never just one reason that would push someone to suicide. It's always a series of events that one thing falls on top of another and it just pushes you to the edge.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the graphic depiction of suicide and also rape and bullying, it is a cause for concern, definitely, because there can be copycat suicide, there can be suicide contagion, and also it can push someone to start having voyeuristic tendencies, meaning you become addicted to watching something gory, like real life events, like snuff.
On that though, with social media, you're bombarded with stuff like this nowadays. I mean, like you could buy. I remember I can't remember when it was. Ezra, you and I were having a chat about something, and then you said, I think you mentioned the word. I was contemplating suicide at that particular point, and then I think it was your Alexa that picked it up, and it was like, "Do you need some help? Do you want anything?" In the same vein, when we say stuff, social media is listening, right? So it feeds you all these weird, different things, and there's a plethora of videos and pictures online right now. People posting suicide videos and whatnot. There's a whole forest in Japan where people have actually gone there. And I think there was a YouTube influencer actually went there and then tried to make a video from it. And then it's just nonstop, right? What do you think about people who post videos like that on sensationalizing suicide? I suppose that's a way to put it. What do you think of that?
Well, some people that live stream this, it's people want to feel meaningful, right? They want to have meaning in their life, and you might be in a place where your life has no meaning, so you want it to go out with a bang, right? This is why some of these people do this, whether they're mass shooters or, when I was 17 and I was going through some really difficult depression, and I was in this unrequited love. I was in love with my best friend, and I was extremely suicidal because she didn't even know. I was too terrified to even tell her. I fantasized, and so I went to school every day. I carried a razor blade in my backpack, and I fantasized about walking up on stage during lunch and like slitting my wrists in front of the school and dying in front of all these kids, because I felt so meaningless, and I felt so like ignored, and
right. This is one way they'll remember me.
Yeah. But I'm a stupid kid, I'm a stupid teenager. And these are the fantasies that kids sometimes have. And, I never went through with it, but like I was carrying a razor blade to school for weeks. And like, that's, obviously I needed help, but, now we have these tools that, I could, someone can just live stream that, and people do. And it's I think it's some way to give their life meaning, or some way to lessen the pain, or feel like they have some kind of impact in a world where you can feel so small and so little. But of course, we're not that smart beings, and these things influence us and affect us and push us in various directions. We don't know how to say no. We don't know how not to click on that video we're curious about, and then be disturbed by it, and then go down this rabbit hole. So it's difficult with this technology. We're figuring this out now, how this technology is hijacking us.
But technology can be a great thing, and you're right. It's like I'm online and I'm looking for medical articles, health and articles on mental health, and then I get a bunch of great stuff. I can use this. Then there's a whole other list of, for lack of a better term, it's all bullshit, right? It's like, this is what you should do and everything. If someone, maybe not contemplating suicide, but has thought about it, okay, about suicide in general, about committing suicide, where do they go to get the right information to help them? Afzan, I mean, as an advocate in this, you would know where's the right place to go to, especially in Malaysia, right?
The number one source that people can call is befrienders. Befrienders actually provide help for people who want to talk about their suicidal thoughts. I am also working closely with AWAS Malaysia, that's Awareness Against Suicide Malaysia, and there you can follow them on Instagram and also Facebook, and they also have a WhatsApp number where people can reach to talk uh, about anything about mental health issues. And then we have MIASA, which is the Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association. This is an organization run by mental health patients. So they actually help each other because it's like a support group for people with mental health issues. And then there's the Malaysian Mental Health Association, and you can find their information all on the internet. But again, if someone is already on the brink of suicide, already might be endangering themselves and others, then they can just go to the nearest hospital, the emergency department, and they can get help there.
Okay. But another thing that freaks a lot of people out, and I'm not saying like people who are thinking of this, right? In general, people who have suddenly had thoughts like this, right? Whenever you want to go seek help, mental health, psychologists, psychiatrists, and everything, they always think about cost. Wow, it's going to be expensive. How much is it actually, Afzan?
If you go to a government facility, I think you only pay RM1 nominal fee for Malaysians. But having said that, I think that the waiting time at government facilities can be a bit long because I
think
remember
they're overwhelmed also at this.
Yes, they're understaffed, and we don't have a lot of mental health facilities available for the public. Like they have to go to specific hospitals to get the help they need, as opposed to localized clinic kesihatan and things like that. But for people who have the option and the financial capabilities to go for private institutions, in my case, it cost me about 150 to 200 per session, but that is not including medication.
Right. And per session, do they come by hour or?
Yes, it's per hour. And at first, when I first started seeing the psychiatrist, I had to go weekly. So that's like 600 to 800 ringgit a month. Yeah. And then as time went by and my condition improved, then we reduced it to once every fortnight, and then once a month. And now I'm at once every 2 months.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Is it around the same price elsewhere, Ezra? I mean, like in Malaysia, it's 150, 200.
It's much more expensive in the West. But there's all sorts of programs. There's support groups. And what Afzan was saying initially is like, to get help, it's like connect with someone, right? I mean, you have the internet, you could watch YouTube videos all day, about this stuff, but it's really, you need to connect with someone, whether it's your friend or the Beefer hotline, and talk to someone. And, that connecting with someone and getting a little bit off of that chest can make you realize that, hey, I am worth this investment to save my life. I'm worth this investment, the short-term investment of getting the help I need, to get out, because you might not feel that initially, but once you do start getting help, then you're willing to invest this. When I decided to end my life, I had $10,000 in the bank, and I didn't even consider getting help. And then after I met my angel, I was like, I've got 10 grand. I'm going to use all of that. And then let's see where I'm at. And, that took me to the other side of the planet to get help. And, because I was at that point, I was willing, I was no longer resisting the help. I was now embracing it and looking for it. So, but connecting with someone and talking and, can help you shift that, and open up to the possibility of help.
But talking to someone, sometimes isn't it harder to talk to someone you know because you're so worried that they might be judgmental? So is that why it's better to just call? In your case, I mean, you said call the befrienders, right? Like if I was going through something, right, I don't know whether I want to talk to my spouse about it, right? Because I'm supposed to be the man of the house and stuff like this, right? So it's not an ego. Okay, it is an ego thing. Definitely an ego thing. But that's also a huge barrier. But is it true that it's harder to talk to someone that you know about it? Or is it just something that's going on in our head?
I think it is because we don't want the people we love to see us at our weakest, at our lowest. We always want to present ourselves in the best ways to our loved ones. So it's, I don't know about others, but for me, it was not easier to talk to a stranger because it took me quite a few sessions to really open up to my psychiatrist. But there are things that I still don't talk about to my friends and my family that I have mentioned to my psychiatrist.
Like Ezra runs these men's circles, right? And I love it because you go in and then you lay everything on there. You don't know each other, but it's a safe space and everything. Sometimes like that. I remember I went for a session with you, Ezra. And it was like I just started saying stuff I would never say to anyone else. I was like, "What is going on with me? Just shut up, dude, shut up!" But I just kept wanting to say stuff because I started feeling better about it, about inside. I was letting go of stuff, and I was like, "These are complete strangers." Why is that? Why is it so much easier to do that in some areas, Ezra, compared to others?
I think on some level you don't even care if you get judged, right? You don't care about necessarily the opinions
I'm
of
never going to see these
strangers.
people again, kind of
Yeah.
thing, is it?
And we're so attached to how the people that love us, we feel that they'll judge us. But I posit this, like someone that really loves you in your life, I think they're going to be the last ones to judge you, especially in a situation like this. I know it is harder to talk to the people and care about, but they're like, they love you. And, I think if you have a real relationship with someone, a really deep relationship with you, they're not going to judge you. And your relationship is stronger than that. But, coming back to strangers, this is, I guess this is the power of hotlines like befrienders or suicide prevention lines or, men's circles and these things is they're just strangers. And I guess there's less of a cost, right? There's less of a cost if you say something wrong or someone judges you or you feel like you're an idiot because you're not going to see these people again. And so there's less at stake. But the power of that is now you're open to actually share something that you really need to share. And even though this person doesn't know you, you have that same effect that they're listening and you have that same connection. And oftentimes same shared experience. And that helps relieve some of this. So that's why I think, connecting with anyone, whether it's people people you love, your family, your friends, or strangers, someone, connect with someone.
Yeah. And this is what Afzan said earlier is like, if you're going to talk to someone, if someone wants to talk to you about stuff, don't listen and try to just listen, right?
Listen
and if you
understand.
if you are feeling like there's something going on, like you're not just feeling sad right now, you're actually thinking like this might be depression, because you're thinking about committing suicide or the thoughts have actually popped in. We have a bunch of phone numbers right here that you can actually get in touch with. Befrienders is at the top of the list. You can get in touch with them, get help. Times are tough. We don't even know when things are actually going to get better. So I think we need to talk to someone about this. So get the help that you need. But Ezra, Afzan, thank you so much for sharing. I know it was a bit it's tough to talk about what you've gone through, but thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be able to share this. If this helps anyone, that's it's worth the vulnerability and opening up to that. So that's why we do this work. So we can be there to help someone. I didn't have this help when I was going through it, and so I want to be there for someone that it does need that help.
Yeah. So reach out to Ezra if you need to. If you're a guy, go for one of his men's circles. And we need urgent mental health help, go look for Afzan because she's a certified mental health first aider right now, so she can help.
Yes.
All right. Now, before we go, I don't know whether Ezra has done this yet, but I think he has. Okay, because we do this with everybody, right? But Afzan, I need you to help us Jantans out. We, from a professional standpoint or a personal standpoint, from where you are, we need you to be as frank as possible, because we Jantans, the whole point of this is we're trying to be better versions of ourselves, right? On a general level, any advice for Jantans out there to be better versions of themselves?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Asking for help doesn't make you any less of a Jantan than you are.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing Jantans in this generation today?
Admitting that they need help.
That's true. But
yeah,
I think, I don't know why, but I think as you get older, it's much easier to accept help, because there's so many things you can't do, right? And also, I'm like, I'm too old to do this, man. Can you do this bit and everything, right? But
yeah, I guess because you get wiser as you get older.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't want to exert as much energy. But anyway, there are a lot of things that Jantans do really, really well. But what can Jantans do better?
Yeah, I think it's what Ezra is doing, creating a safe space for your friends, your fellow Jantans, to just talk it out. Just talk about anything, your emotions, your mental state, without judgment. I think that's something that you guys can do a lot better.
Brilliant. What's the best thing in your mind anyway? What's the best thing? And there's no right or wrong answer here. What's the best thing about Jantans?
Your need to be strong, I guess, which can also be a curse at the same time.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And if you were a Jantan, you know what? You're an honorary Jantan right now.
Yeah.
Now
I don't know what my parents are going to say about that, but thank you.
If you were a Jantan, what would be in your mind? That's like, what's the best thing about being a Jantan in your mind?
Not having to wear a bra every day.
Really? Is that a big issue? Really?
Yes, it is. Working from home is a blessing because I don't have to put one on every day to go to work.
I never knew that.
Learn something every day.
That's an open confession from me.
That's the best thing ever. I thought, sometimes I think about it and I'm like, especially those underwire ones, it must be pressing on you like crazy. And it's like hot and everything, right?
Yeah, it's restricting.
Ezra, Afzan, thank you so much for joining us on this very eye-opening, very frank discussion on what's up with that.
My pleasure, Dedi.
Thank you.
You know what? We really hope you got a lot out of that discussion that we had with Ezra and Afzan on suicides. Did you learn anything new? Did we miss anything that you'd like to know? You know what? Let us know in the comments down below, because your thoughts matter to us. But if you are going through something like this, please do get in touch with the relevant people, befrienders. Afzan mentioned it earlier, because you know what? You matter. Always remember that. But you know what? Thanks also for watching. And remember, ultimately, don't be a dick.